Hello everyone, welcome back to Coaster Hour, and before I get into the video, I'd just like to say that it feels awesome to finally return to making videos. I'm coming back with an all new energy, and I've figured out a way to be much more consistent with uploading, so expect one video a week from here on out. As for today's video, I'll be ranking the top 10 coasters that currently operate at Knott's Berry Farm from worst to best, as I have gotten the great opportunity to visit Knott's multiple times over the past few years. So with that said, let's get on with the ranking. At number 10, or unranked, whichever one you see it as, is the only coaster I haven't ridden at Knott's Berry Farm, and that is Timberline Twister, the kiddie coaster. And this ride is one that has eluded me since it is not open during Scary Farm, and it always has had a 20 to 25 minute wait whenever I've seen it operating during normal Knott's Berry Farm, which is just too long for a small kiddie coaster. Ghostrider the Mock Rides Wild Mouse comes in at number 9, and usually I find these Wild Mouse coasters to be pretty harmless and in some cases even fun family rides, but unfortunately Ghostrider isn't very enjoyable. So why is that? Well, it's because of the shin guard restraints that absolutely crush your thighs, and combine that with a pretty typical, boring Wild Mouse layout, and you get a ride that is easily one of the worst coasters I've ever ridden, and really the only bad coaster at Knott's Berry Farm. For my number 8 spot, I have Jaguar, the Zero family coaster, and this is one of those coasters where the location really improves the experience. While the layout of Jaguar isn't really anything to shout at, you do get to go past and get close to some of the other rides, and one of the highlight moments is when you go through the vertical loop of Montezooma's Revenge. You go right under it through a tunnel, which is really cool. It's kind of a shame really that Jaguar is so low on the list, because I think the interactions it has with the other rides makes it stand out and worth your time. But Knott's Berry Farm, they have a lot of solid coasters, which is why Jaguar ends up on the lower end of the ranking. My number 7 coaster at Knott's Berry Farm is Pony Express, and this is a Zamperla family moto coaster that features restraints and vehicles that are supposed to make you feel like you are riding a horse. I both like and dislike this, as Pony Express delivers a ride experience I haven't gotten from any other coaster just because of the restraints, but at the same time, when the ride is all over and you're sitting on the brake run, the restraints become painful, especially on your back. My favorite part of the ride is the first launch, which isn't too intense, but more just fun, and fun is also definitely the word I'd use to describe Pony Express, as you won't feel anything too forceful, but you will still have a lot of fun with it, and this is a ride the whole family can enjoy. My only other complaint besides the restraints being painful toward the end is that the ride is just a little too short, but for what it is, Pony Express is a pretty fun coaster. Why is Sierra Sidewinder in Camp Snoopy? That is the question I have been asking myself for years whenever I ride this mock ride spinning coaster, and that is why it comes in at number 6. This ride actually has some really intense moments for a ride located in the kids area. While I'm not in any way a huge fan of spinning coasters, as they used to make me feel nauseated, I will admit that Sierra Sidewinder has been growing on me over the years due to some of its more intense turns and moments, and though this ride does feel short, which is a negative, I will say that this ride does seem to get overlooked, and to me, Sierra Sidewinder is a pretty strong supporting coaster at Knott's Berry Farm. Montezooma's Revenge comes in at number 5, and this ride was one of the first launch coasters to ever be built, and because of that, it is a pretty simple ride. This ride, it just has a vertical loop and 2 spikes, but it is still a great ride as the launch is fun, and the vertical loop is pretty intense and awesome to go through, both forwards and backwards. Also for me, this was the first roller coaster I ever rode that featured an inversion or a moment to go upside down. So in that sense, it was a big milestone coaster for me, which is why it comes in at number 5. The first ever B&M coaster I ever rode, Silver Bullet, comes in at number 4, and while I like this invert, it isn't really one of my favorites. Since Silver Bullet, it has a pretty weak first drop, and it isn't nearly as intense as I expect it to be, but despite that, this coaster is still a blast to ride. The vertical loop, first overbank turn, and 0G roll are my favorite elements on the coaster, and the final helix is a pretty great ending to the ride. I also like how this invert goes over the lake, and Silver Bullet is presented very well, which is why there are so many amazing pictures of this ride. Because this is one of the least intense coasters of its kind, I think Silver Bullet is a great first invert for anyone who hasn't ridden one, as I myself thought it was an amazing experience when I first rode it. Hang Time doesn't entirely live up to its name, but I still think this ride is a great fit at Knott's Berry Farm and a solid number 3 coaster. The light package that illuminates Hang Time at night is spectacular, and the ride experience is also great. I love vertical lift hills, and Hang Time has one, which is fantastic. It feels like you're gonna fall backwards during this lift hill. It's pretty awesome. The first drop is also really good, and the inversions are fun, though I wouldn't say any of them deliver a truly memorable moment of hang time, and the few airtime hills do deliver some solid ejector. I do feel like hang time could have been a little longer, but as it is, I think that this is a coaster that any coaster enthusiast will enjoy and needs to ride when they are at Knott's Berry Farm. Accelerator might not be a long ride, but it still packs in quite a punch, which is why I have it as my number 2 coaster at Knott's Berry Farm. The first launch is one of the most intense out there, as you go from 0 to 82 miles per hour in 2.3 seconds, and I like that you get some solid airtime going over the top hat. Also, the bank turns allow you to feel the speed and were a fantastic way to extend Accelerator's layout. I had yet to ride Accelerator in the front row, and this year at Scary Farm I wanted to do it, but I didn't since Accelerator broke down while I was in line, so unfortunately I haven't ridden this coaster since 2017, and because of that I definitely want to get another ride in on this fantastic Intamin coaster. Now, before I get to number 1, I'd like to give an honorable or perhaps dishonorable mention to Boomerang, the Vekoma Boomerang that was replaced by Hang Time and will reopen in Indonesia. I got to ride this coaster once in 2013, and it was not a great coaster. I remember getting a lot of head banging and just overall being pretty underwhelmed by the ride. And had I put it on this list, I would have put Boomerang at number 9, ahead of Ghostrider, but behind Jaguar. With that out of the way, my number 1 favorite coaster at Knott's Berry Farm without a doubt is the absolutely fantastic wooden coaster, Ghostrider. And this ride has fantastic airtime, great lateral forces, and it just feels like a crazy out of control ride, and that is just during the day. At night though, Ghostrider is just on a whole other level. You just have no idea sometimes what will come next, and you are riding without much light. It is just an absolutely phenomenal experience. This year at Scary Farm, Ghostrider took me by surprise, as it was just absolutely hauling through its layout, and it was a very intense experience overall. Obviously, you need to ride Ghostrider if you are at Knott's, and if possible, try to get a night ride on it. Trust me, you won't regret it. That is where the ride shines the most. So, that is my ranking of the coasters at Knott's Berry Farm, and if you have ridden the coasters at the park, put down your rankings in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time here on Coaster Hour.